Sir, I guess we're on live. So, are you ready? Should I start?
Yeah, sure. Go
Sure.
ahead.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome you all to the first webinar of with our respected guests from iGEM Foundation. I'm Samiha Nujhat Zaman, your co-host for today's webinar. I hope you all are doing great during this pandemic. So, before starting, I would really like to give a short introduction of what iGEM Foundation is. So, the International Genetically Engineered Machine Foundation is an independent nonprofit organization which is solely dedicated to the advancement of synthetic biology, education, and competition. This competition helps to provide students the opportunity to push the boundaries of synthetic biology by tackling everyday issues all around the world. So today we have with us the Soumodeep Sarkar, an iGEM ambassador to Asia for iGEM 2021. Finally, we have Salman Promon, sir, a member of iGEM Human Practices Committee 2021, who will be our host for today's program. So before starting the event, I would really like to thank you for being here today despite of your hectic schedule. And now, lastly, I would really like to ask our audience to drop down their questions and queries right at the comment section. Our guests will try to answer them after their talk. Now, before any further delays, Salman Promon, sir, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Samiha. And thank you so much, Committee of Biotechnology, iGEM Bangladesh, commonly going through this process to bring iGEM in Bangladesh and initiate the first group of people who will be most likely, and we hope we will be participating in very near future iGEM team. So here we have Soumodeep Sarkar. I would like to thank him again for his time. And we have some question for him. And also we are going to take questions for you guys. And I would like to ask Shomodeep, before jumping into our question session, do you have anything to say to our audience and all the people who are eagerly waiting for to know what IGM is and how it can be a very significant addition to our bio enthusiast or the science enthusiast community? So thank you, Shomodeep.
Yeah, first of all, a great thanks to Samiha and Salman. It's such a warm welcome over here. I always knew that the people of Bangladesh were very nice, and it's great to actually experience it firsthand. And I really have to agree, Salman, here that this is it's very phenomenal that you guys yourselves have approached people from iGEM in order to introduce the concept of iGEM to you guys, because more often than not, it's usually iGEM reaching out to teams, right? And whereas it has been, it's very good to see that you have got enthusiastic people who are interested in trying to expand their horizons and participate in competitions such as iGEM, where we promote this idea of local people solving local problems on a global scale, and this is just absolutely fantastic to hear from you guys. So I think part of what makes iGEM amazing for young science enthusiasts, and I would argue and say that it's not just good for science enthusiasts, because there are iGEM is incredibly multidisciplinary. So you can be, say, a computer scientist, or say you can be a video editor, you can be a photographer, and you can be a web developer and stuff like that. And you would still find that there's a lot of things that you can learn out of iGEM, and a lot of experiences that you can take out of iGEM that you wouldn't be able to otherwise from like a singular internship or a university college course. So, and of course, for young science enthusiasts, especially people who are interested in the fields of biotech, in fields of synthetic biology, in the fields of medicine, iGEM has a lot to offer in terms of depending on which project you choose, you can do tons and tons of things. And I think, again, once again, one of the biggest advantages in iGEM is that it's not a project that you're going and working under a professor for, because usually the professors have their own set of motivations, their own set of goals, their own set of like funding uh, requirements and stuff which you have to adhere to. Whereas here in iGEM, the project is all your own, right? So it is, you are the one who is motivated to do this project. You're the one who knows why this project exists, and you're the ones who decide what the limits are for your project. So I think that is something that is very important for somebody who wants to get into science. As someone, say, if you want to become a PI, later on, then you would have to apply for grants. And I think one of the first things that you guys will be doing as an iGEM team will be advocating for funds. And then the second is, as a PI, you have to manage a whole lab, right? You have to manage labs of people, which means that you've got, people management skills like conflict resolution, then, you know, healthy team meetings, this and that. So I think there's just a lot of things that you guys can take up from iGEM, take away from iGEM that will help you in practically any field that you would go in. And the best part is all packaged in one single competition. You would be doing different internships or different undertaking different courses for all of these separate things that you will learn all along the course of one summer in iGEM.
This is like really great to know that how much opportunity people can avail. I mean, the students can avail. And also, I saw a couple of startups. They're coming out of iGEM, and we'll be talking about that. So now I'm gonna take some time to ask the question. I hope we can jump into that. And also, this whole thing, it will be kind of like discussion for you to the audience. I'm like talking right now. So you may find we are answering the questions, and also sometime we have additional information because to the course of our conversation things will come up. So please have a keen eye on it. And yeah, so our first question here: how the introduction of iGEM participation can be a great opportunity for our in science enthusiasts. I think you just covered it a little bit, but still, I mean, can you walk us through the team, who can be a part of it, or how it can be beneficial to them, a very, in some soft, like technical sense. So yeah.
Definitely. I can take that up. And I think now that you mentioned the startups, and I think one of the, because again we're talking about science enthusiasts, right? Why is this a good investment of time and effort, and what kind of returns do you get out of it? And I'm very pleased to tell you that iGEM teams have formed the backbones of multiple project theses and more than 150 startups. And if you consider the combined valuation of them all, I think it comes around 600-700 million, which is pretty great because we're talking about pretty much cutting edge technology and science that is helping the world around. And the main motivation or the main sort of ideas that you gain are again just from the experience of going in through iGEM itself. So iGEM, you can participate in iGEM as a high school student. You can participate in iGEM as a college student. You can also participate in iGEM as a member of a community lab, which means that you don't have to be enrolled in some kind of high school and university. If you are working with some set of labs, then you can always participate like that as well. In terms of, because it's a competition, there's of course judging and stuff. And as far as judging is concerned, there is a age limit of 24 for the collegiate teams. And if you have, I think, 2 to 3 members above the age of 24 in your team, not your advisors, then you would qualify for something called as the overgraduate um, competition, and you will have to participate against other people who are at the same level. And as compared to that, if you are in a collegiate level, then you would participate against other collegiate teams. And if you are in a high school, then you would be participating against other high school teams. And that's as far as the competition is concerned. But apart from that, apart from the judging, I think everything else is more or less, the same, because you will be participating such that you will have to compete for the same medal criteria. You will have the same set of deliverables. You will have the same set of goals to achieve, and you will have the same set of deadlines as well. The only differences would be in the way that you're judged, because it would be unfair to say, compare PhD students to high school students, right? So that's in this perspective, iGEM has a very broad scope for people right from high school to PhD students, for anybody to participate. So that answers the question of who can participate in iGEM. And it does not matter if whether or not you have any formal education in science or whether or not you are involved in biotech and stuff. Like I said before, even if you are, say, a web developer, or say you're a computer engineer, or say you're a mechanical engineer, because there have been projects in iGEM wherein they have made pipetting robots, and they've made electronic sensors. They've made robots that can sense smell. So the smelling sensing mechanism was something that was a biosensor, but the rest of it all was mechanical, right? And of course, pipetting is a huge concern for people who do biotech stuff, and uh, making a robot for it would reduce the chances of error, increase the speed of this functioning. And again, the most incredible part about being an iGEM is all of this is completely open source. So anything that a team has done before, any team in this whole world, whoever has participated in iGEM has done anything before, that is all completely accessible to you, which is great because I think people who are involved in science will realize that there's a lot of ways in which science is blocked to you, that you cannot access certain papers, you cannot access certain amount of knowledge, and without going through patents and maybe copyright issues and stuff like that. I think that is all solved by this factor of iGEM being completely open science, completely open source, and you can just reach out to any of the old teams, you can reach out to any of the current teams, you can reach out to the higher brass in iGEM itself, and you can always learn from them. So this covers who can participate in iGEM and all that. So let's now talk about and also again the specifics, that you don't need to have certain level of degrees, a certain understanding in some things. You can always participate no matter where you are from. And let's talk about how this is useful for, like, say, scientists. So again, because not all of you guys will be trained PhD students who have who really know the workarounds of how to work with DNA, how to work with proteins, how to work with this and that. You may not have an idea of how to use fluorescent microscope. There's tons of things in the biotech lab which are like extremely confusing to most people. But iGen tries to again make this, because the idea is all about accessibility. We try to make things very easy for people. So as soon as you register as an iGen team, you get something called as DNA distribution kit. And the best part about this DNA distribution kit is all of these parts are compatible with each other. You don't have to sit and edit the DNA to remove some restriction sites that would otherwise mess up your cloning. It's cool because it's all biocompatible with each other. And again, if you are confused about any of these terminologies, you can always just google parts.ign.org, and you will have a completely free resource where you can read up anything about any of these parts, how they have been used, who have they been used by, when was this last used, how many times has this been used, and how many times has it been good as used, if or if it has not performed as well as they expected it to. So there's open science. At the same time, it is made in such a way that even high school students can solve just as grave problems as, say, someone who is at a PhD level, right? So again, because this is really what is giving the high school students or even the college students that kind of confidence to approach science that most other people will not have, right? I think that's really core to the philosophy of iGEM itself, that the reason they kickstarted this synthetic biology revolution was that they realized this is something that has great potential to solve the world's problems. But the problem is that once people reach the level where they're extremely experienced at doing things, they tend to take less risks, and which is why they will not try to be as innovative as, say, a high school student or a college student would be. And this idea of the iGEM competition was born, that we'll give them this set of standardized parts. It's sort of like Lego bricks, and they can assemble these Lego bricks as they like. And with the set of Lego bricks, you can build anything. You can build cars, you can build buildings, you can build whole cities out of it, right? It's all up to you, it's all up to your imagination. and that's pretty much it. That's how science works. And once you get the knack of doing this, once you start interacting with your mentors, with your peers, and you start focusing yourself on some concepts of the project itself, such as public policy, or say ethical guidelines, and say how to use certain equipment in the biotech lab, and you learn all of these at a very, very tender age, at which most other people you will be working with will not have been exposed to all of these things at the age that you will get exposed to these things. So that adds a huge amount of value to what you can become as a researcher, because you know what are the things that you should focus upon. What are the things that you would find difficulty in. You would know earlier than other people about what you are really interested in. And I think that is why iGEM is like a brilliant place for a lot of science enthusiasts, because you can engage with the technical aspects, which is, like, of course, great. And you can also engage in all the aspects that come along with the technical aspects. And you can really decide whether or not this is the right field for me. So definitely, this is something I would recommend to every single enthusiast, no matter which field you're from, because iGEM is, like I said, highly multidisciplinary. People have made completely biodegradable drones, which might sound like a mechanical engineering project, but it is biotech, because you need biotech in order to be able to produce some material like that. And then they have made stuff like that can degrade heavy metals. They've made stuff that can serve as biofuels. It's all an open playground for you guys, as long as it does not uh, cause safety concerns.
Excellent. So there are a lot of things going on, and I can see there are other opportunities, and there are many avenues to explore with this kind of knowledge. And that's why, we actually mentioned science enthusiasts instead of like students or any particular kind of professions. Anyone, it can be high schoolers or it can be what you just say, without any kind of formal education. If you can do it, you are welcome, right? So this is the beauty of it, open science and everything. And I think you have explained a little bit how iGEM works, but we want to know, like, if, for example, we are trying to establish a team, so can we, put together students or science enthusiasts or other people from different places or organization or individually, and after making this team, how we can, get them under the registration process. So can you put some light on it, if you can?
Yeah, sure. So it's fairly easy with iGEM as far as the registration process goes. So the way that iGEM works is every year it starts around the February March timing. This is the timeline wherein you guys will be registering the team. Which means, again, here in the only thing you have to register is a team. You don't have to have anything apart from the primary investigator or the principal investigator, who is going to be who will basically approve that this team exists, and a couple of members maybe. And even if you have no members, it's completely fine, because usually iGEM teams keep recruiting more and more people as and when they require people, based on how, like, wide their projects become. The final deadline for when you have to finalize your team, that comes like much later, somewhere around July and August, right? So around February and March, all you have to do is you just have to register as a team. As a team, you can register as a high school team, you can register as a university or college team, and you can also register as a community lab. Now, there are situations wherein you can register as a college. So I'll give you this example of a three college US team. So there was I think you might have heard of Brown and Stanford. So I think and Princeton. So I think Brown, Stanford, and Princeton collaborated to become just like one team. So there were students from the Brown University, from Stanford University, and Princeton University, and they made like one team, one collegiate team. So that is completely possible. It's possible for different universities to collaborate and make one single team. It's possible for you to not be affiliated to any sort of university uh, at all. You can be, say, a community lab. There is a lab set up where a lot of different people come and learn through internships or through being research assistants to certain PIs. You can participate as a community lab, and you can also, of course, participate as a high school. In every case, the major requirement is a principal investigator. You need to have a principal investigator in a high school team can be a high school teacher. A principal investigator in a college or university team can be a college or university teacher. And a principal investigator in a community lab can be anybody in the community lab, provided that they have provided they won't be working in the team per se. They cannot really perform experiments on their behalf. That's like the idea. A PI is only responsible for the communications between the headquarters, iGEM headquarters, and the team itself, and giving approval or things like that. Major formal communications, such as if there is a delay or in fee, or say if you require a invoice beforehand and stuff like that. Very official formal interactions. You need a PI for that, which is why you need a PI to register a team. But you don't need all the team members just yet. You can register all the team members that you have till that point, and you can always add the rest of the team members as you keep expanding your team. So the first thing you would have to do is around this February, March area, you'll have to register your team, and I can send in the links to Salman or Samiha later on, because I can put it up on the private chat if you want me to. Um, it's the link for this year, but this would be the same across years. The only thing that would change would be it'll become 2022.igem.org, but the rest of the link will remain the same. And so it's pretty simple. Around this time is when you have to register your team. So registration means that you would have to go to a particular link, just fill in all the details, the team name, the country that you guys are based in. If you guys are based across different countries, you can always put in the country in which the lab exists, wherein your experiments will be done, or majority of your experiments will be done. And I think we might try and include another option next year onwards, wherein we can accommodate more international teams. But that is not something you can promise right away. For now, I think what exists is that you have to choose a certain country, and based on the country, you'll have to choose which region you're from. That is Asia and Oceania, or Europe, or Africa, or Americas, North America, or South America. I mean, for you guys, it's going to be Asia and Oceania, and then you can. You can add in more comments, you can add in more things. You have to add in your shipping address to receive the distribution kits and stuff like that. It's fairly simple. I sent you the link. It's as easy as making a Google account. Honestly, it's that easy. So this is the registration process, and of course your registration is not complete until actually there are three requirements. One is the team name getting accepted, then the shipping address being filled up, and the third is the registration fees being paid. So the team name needs to represent the team itself, and it cannot have certain words, like it cannot have the word iGEM, or it cannot have the word synthetic biology and stuff like that, because otherwise team names become just too repetitive. And you can again read up all of these guidelines. It's sort of like password guidelines or username guidelines that you have across other platforms that you make accounts in. And so that's something. So if you put up, say, if you are participating from a certain uh, in university, I would suggest that you just put the name of the university and then you put Bangladesh at the end. So it's like a clear team name that we are this team from this country, and then you fill up the rest of the details. So that's easy. And for first time teams, the team name approval process takes a bit of time because it happens manually. Whereas for old teams, they usually tend to use the same team name, so in which case it gets approved automatically. So that's the first requirement. The second is adding your shipping address, but again, you have time to do that. So it's not really a requirement, but I don't see why you would want to delay that. So I suggest using the shipping address of the lab that you will be conducting your experiments in. because they'll be sending you the distribution kit, which has DNA parts, it has a measurement kit, plasmid backbones, and competent cell test kit and stuff like that. So there's the second requirement, shipping address. And the third requirement is a payment of the registration fee, which is quite a challenge because it is 5,500 US dollars, which is quite a lot in the Bangladeshi Indian currency, and it's lesser for Europe, and it's less for Americas. Like the amount is the same, but I think it's across different currencies it changes. So that's the case for the registration. So these are the three things that are important, and this is something that you need to get done by the February-March period, which is why I will suggest that you start your hunt around the time end of November or December rolls in. You start deciding whether or not you guys are going to have a team, and if yes, then you guys need to start looking for sponsors. You guys start need to start looking for people who can fund you trying to participate in the competition itself. After that, you have another set of registration process that will be for the Jamboree, and I'll walk you through that as well. So this is just February, March. After that, you've got April, May, just after the deadline for the registration passes. You still have some more, about another month, wherein you can do late registration, and late registration is $500 more. So again, I would not suggest doing that, because $500 more again in our currency is like a huge jump. Then you've got April and May, then it rolls in. April, May is when we've got the opening weekend festival. Usually this all happens online, or it might happen offline, but like you get, the teams do not travel. It's just the headquarter members and the after iGEM members, they try to put up like this whole display of things that is new about this season of iGEM. And they'll tell you that this is our new committees for human practices. These are a new set of ambassadors. This is the refreshed medal criteria. These are the updates on where the Jamboree will happen, whether or not it will happen, and stuff, which is now a huge concern because of COVID, and things like that. So that's like the opening weekend festival happens in April and May, and this is when we expect teams to, you've started your team, you've begun fundraising, you've paid the fees, you have to try and figure out project ideas, and you have to try and figure out who will do what in your team. Like you will try to determine your team goals, you will try to determine your team tasks and stuff like that. So I have a very helpful chart over here, and I'll actually share my screen so that you guys can see it as well.
Please, thank you.
So over here, I show you something called as the iGEM cycle. Again, you can find this on the iGEM website. You can always just search the. Is my screen visible?
No, not yet, but yeah, right now we can see that.
You can see it.
Yes, we can see it right
I'll
now.
just wait till it's visible.
That's
Sure,
visible
yeah,
now.
It's visible. Great.
yeah.
So so you can see here that in February, March, April, May, you will have to start the team, begin fundraising, brainstorm your project ideas, determine your team's goals and tasks, and then around June, July, and August is when people start working on their project. People do wet lab stuff, people do dry lab stuff. They run the experiments, they try and process and plot results. iGEM has this. iGEM has recently, not recently, but like iGEM recently has also started to increase its focus on something called as the engineering cycle, wherein we expect you to hypothesize stuff. We expect you to build it, test it, and then reassess if whatever you hypothesized was correct or not. And if not, then hypothesize again, build again, test again, and then keep going through the cycle again and again till you get it right, till you feel like you're satisfied. And June, July, August is also the time wherein most iGEM teams also go through a lot of collaborations. And this is again a very fascinating aspect of iGEM, is that we We promote collaborations as opposed to competitions, and it's awesome because it's one of the, I think, silver medal criteria. So in order for you to really succeed at iGEM, you have to, play along with others. And trust me, some of the most beautiful projects have come out of projects, or meetups, or discussions, or papers even, have come out of collaborations across teams internationally. This happens. Uh, Students from China, they collaborate with, say, students from Egypt. People from Greece will, say, collaborate with students from India, and hopefully maybe even the team from Bangladesh will collaborate with teams from, say, Canada or US. Right. So this is again June, July, and August is when most teams are doing their work, actively working on their project. They're doing collaborations. A lot of iGen teams also have their own local meetups, and you can hear and read all about this on the iGEM website. In fact, if you go to 2021.igem.org, you would see events and deadlines over here, wherein you can see that, see, there is a Latin American meetup that's scheduled on 28th of August. You can see that there is some different events that keep on happening. You can always just keep on checking on these things. You can subscribe to this and you will get to know what all the different events that are happening all around the world, right? And I think what is very, very crucial for a team to do, and that is while you're participating in the project, is having a very, very keen look at, of course, this calendar, but more importantly, towards this calendar, this is the calendar what we call as the deadlines calendar. Because the first bronze medal category is that you need to meet all of these deadlines, and if you're unable to meet any of these deadlines, then you lose out on even a bronze medal. As far as medals and awards are concerned, so there are two kinds of prizes in iGEM. You've got medals and you've got awards. In medals, you're not really competing against anyone but yourself, right? Because you only have a set of things that you need to complete in order to win a certain medal. So I can show you that if you'd like me to. Um, Medals. And again, you can always go through these pages. I will send these to Salman or Samiha, and you can see that you need to uh, meet certain criteria. And once you meet these certain criteria, you can win the respective medals. And all of these build upon each other, which means that there are four bronze medal criterias, and only if you fulfill all the four bronze medal criterias will you be eligible to, say, participate for the silver medal, right? So you need to fulfill all the bronze criteria, all the silver criteria, and at least two or three. In this case, it's three gold medal criteria in order to win like a gold medal. So you're not participating against anybody except just your team, and there is no upper limit or lower limit on how many medals are awarded to teams each year. The second set of prizes are awards, and awards are, and let me tell you, there is so many different kinds of awards. It's almost as expansive as iGEM itself. So of course you've got the grand prizes, the best project that year, the second and the third in the undergraduate. Like I said, again, you've got three different sections: undergraduate, overgraduate, and high school. You've got grand prizes for all of them. We've got track awards. So I think again this is very important because not all projects are similar because it's such an open ground. iGEM tries to classify them in some different kinds of tracks. We've got diagnostics, that is, if you can figure out what kind of disease is coming faster than what exists already, or maybe a different method which is probably cheaper or more robust and stuff like that. So these kind of projects come under the diagnostic track. uh, Energy is about clean energy. If you make, say, biofuels, or if you make a process that will uh, reduce the amount of CO2 or CO that is released by a certain fuel and stuff like that, as long as your project's dealing with clean energy, so that will be best. It'll be in the energy track. If you're working on something that's on, say, and stuff. So maybe you are working on a project that will say not chelate exactly. It will say capture nuclear radiation, neutron damage and stuff. So these kind of things, because radiation poisoning and then nuclear pollution is something that's like a deal nowadays. So you guys, of course, you can also participate in other kinds of pollution, say water pollution, air pollution, land pollution. If your project deals with something like this, you would be participating in the environment track. Food and nutrition is, say, if you're trying to develop a project that, say, is able to detect when a food item becomes ripe. So say you're developing a biosensor like that, and there have been projects that have actually, they are not just making these up. These are actual projects that students have made at iGEM. You can maybe say make a biosensor that can tell when a food gets ripe, or say you're making some kind of biofertilizer that is better than the fertilizers that we get so far, or say maybe you're making some sort of nutritional yeast, right? So because it's very difficult to carry like good tasting food to space, right? So you want to create good tasting yeast. And again, this is one of the best projects that we had last year. I think it won second runner up, third runner up, or first prize. I'm not very sure on that. uh, Foundational advance, and this is awesome because maybe your project does not have a lot to do with real world applications right away, but rather something that will improve synthetic biology itself. So say maybe you have come up with a protocol that will improve, say, making the guide RNAs for CRISPR, or say you have come up with a more efficient method of say running a PCR. So these are, while these are not things that will be applicable to most people right away, these are things that really help synthetic biology improve, right? So that's what foundational advance stands for. There are teams that build exclusively hardware. So for instance, like I told you guys, like there's a team that worked on a pipetting machine. There are teams that have worked on, say, a completely biodegradable robot and stuff. And before this, the best hardware, the hardware track did not exist, so they participate in something called as the open track. So if you feel like your project does not suit in any of these tracks, you can always participate in the open track. So, but now it would be considered as one of a hardware project, right? Then you've got information processing project. So maybe all of you guys, or maybe some of you guys would know about, say, the NCBI website, or say the NEB tools. Maybe say you've heard of SnapGene or Benchling, molecular biology stuff, or bioinformatics things, right? So you've got a lot of protein data, or say DNA data, or say that could be sequence data, it could be structure data and stuff like that. So it's difficult to keep shifting between platforms to process all of this information. So say if you make some sort of software wherein you know you can process all of these information in like one place. Again, a team has actually done this before. You can also participate in the information processing track. There is also manufacturing, of course. So nanotechnology, and this is awesome because so in nanotechs you've got uh, particles that are within the size range of 1 to 100 nanometers, and there are different ways that these are made. So there are some top to down approach and down to up approach, and if you want good purity, usually people use down to up approach of say uh, sol gel stuff and this and that. But there are other methods of nanotechnology that use biology, like self-assembling DNA nanostructures and things like that. Then so these are things that you can always do in manufacturing. So you can say build a certain organism to be able to say convert certain materials into nanoparticles. It can break down macros, or maybe it can build it anabolically, or maybe you can say work on manufacturing something else out of raw materials that only biological systems can use. And there is also new application project. So if this is again, it's very similar to open, but it's that you need to make sure that your your way of approaching this project is something that has never existed before, and again, it does not fit in any of the rest of the categories. So that is new application. And I think one of the examples that was there is when so there was not a lot of concept of using biofilms as lenses, and one of the teams actually participated and made bio lenses out of biofilms, and that was like a new application project. Open project I've already talked about. Again, software, and this can be different from information processing in that you can participate in making different kinds of software which will not say necessarily work with information processing, like I spoke about structural data, or say spoke about sequence data. In software project, maybe you will develop a software that can analyze the PCR plates or the MTT assays and different assays that you run and stuff like that, and can automatically, or maybe it can be connected to a fluorescent microscope, and it'll be able to tell you the based on the signal which is uh, say expressing more or expressing less and stuff. So again, you can participate in the software track. And therapeutics is it's like a very popular project track where you can develop systems wherein you're actually trying to treat some kind of disease, right? And again, a strict disclaimer: you because you guys will be working with genetically modified organisms, you're not allowed to release these organisms. So iGEM has a very strict safety and security policy, and there's also something that you have a special prize on. So there are special prizes, of course. So some teams really go out of their way and try to really spread this idea of synthetic biology to a lot of people, like you guys are right now. It's very heartening to see the community of biotechnology Bangladesh trying to, you know, uh, and to see enthuse people to participate in iGEM and educate them about this field of synthetic biology. So if you guys keep doing these kind of things, and get more people interested in biotech, you can participate for this special award. You can nominate yourself, and then the judges will decide. Best hardware. I can say if you are working on some sort of project, and this I can tell you the tale of my team last year. We were working on a therapeutics project, so we were working on a probiotic pill that would be able to prevent mercury poisoning. And our idea, because it's a probiotic, it needs to stay in your gut, right? But like I said, we cannot actually use live organisms. Or if you use live organisms, you have to fill out an animal use form. But again, all these things can be reserved for later when you do actually participate. But we wanted to test it without it being an in vivo system, and something a little more advanced than an in vitro system of just doing it on petri dishes. So we actually theoretically developed a hardware tool which can emulate how it was like a bioreactor in which we would emulate how a gut functions. So there would be a stomach region, and then there would be an intestine region, and there would be peristalsis in the intestine region. And but that was actually done by a peristalsis motor and tubes running through. So these are some hardware techniques that we used in our project. So that was not our whole project. Our project was only of the probiotic pill itself, but we still went out of a way to design hardware that would be complementary to our project. So you can put these kind of things as a for a special reward. But then again, if you're a hardware team, you cannot participate for best hardware because that's the only project you're doing. Inclusivity. So at iGEM, we really support and we rather encourage the idea of trying to have as many people from as diverse backgrounds that you can bring. If people have people from the LGBTQIA plus communities, if you guys have people from different socioeconomic classes, if you have people across different regions, that means that you have more diverse perspectives on what kinds of problems exists and how to tackle them, and what would be. And it's easy sometimes to get so lost in the science that you forget to make it actually accessible to the people, right? So it's important that so if you guys ensure that you are as inclusive to people with, say, disabilities, or say with people from non-binary uh, gender associations, then you can also participate in the inclusivity award. The best integrated human practices. So human practices is something I think Salman can speak a lot about because he's in the human practices committee. So human practices is basically the concept of iGEM, wherein we expect you to actually reach out to the stakeholders that are involved in your project. So say you're working on a project that so say you're working on a project, say, of biopesticides, right? So biopesticides will be used by farmers. They will be produced by some manufacturing companies. It will be then passed down via food to consumers, to retail stores. Then normal people will actually have it. Then if there are any problems with this, doctors will treat it and stuff like that. So these are all the different stakeholders that are involved in this whole process: the farmers, the storage mills, the pesticide making companies, and stuff like that. So you need to reach out to them, get their inputs on what can be improved, what are the challenges that exist, and stuff like that. So that itself is human practices. But if you actually act on these things, so say certain uh, companies actually told you what kinds of problems they have, what kind of items they have that are usually, say, in uh, short stock, right? So maybe they are unable to find certain resources. So if you're able to make up your product which such that it does not use that particular resource, then it'll be more useful to the world, right? So in that case, you're taking an input from a stakeholder and you're actually integrating it in your project, and that's what integrated human practices is all about. So of course, to win the award, you will have to really change your project based on the inputs that you get from the stakeholders. There's best measurement. Again, this is best explained when you guys actually start participating in the competition. Of you will use different parts, and you want to study how much they're being expressed, and how much, say, they're being expressed or repressed, or how better it is than, say, other counterparts. So what really makes science measurable, or what really makes science different from other philosophies, is that it is measurable, right? You can actually quantify the level of success that you have. It's not just about whether or not the light bulb is on or off. You also have to figure out how bright the light bulb is as compared to any other light bulb, and how much power is it using, say, for instance. So these are all different engineering aspects that you can look after. It's best measurement. Modeling, so maybe you're doing mathematical modeling, computational modeling, maybe you're doing physical modeling. These are different kinds of modeling that you can do that would enhance your project. If you're building some new composite part, or part collection, so maybe you isolated an organism and it has some very unique properties that does not exist on the registry of biological parts so far. You can always cut up these DNA sequences, make it compatible with the rest of them following the RFC standards, and then you can submit these parts. And based on how well you have characterized these parts, how wide the applications can be, you can win these awards. Plant synthetic biology exists for, say, if you're working on some kind of project that is really involving plants, and not just plants. It works for all algae or photosynthetic creatures as well. So as long as you're under the iGEM safety guidelines, there's also something that you can win in the best plant synthetic biology award. There's also usually a best poster award that we had last year and the year before, um, and usually all the years before that, is because that actually happens in a physical event. You actually have posters. I think I have a image here that will show how a poster presentation looks like over here. So it's enjoyed more in a physical setting, which is why this year it has been removed, because this year posters are not a required deliverable anymore. but you still have presentations. Presentations in the competition actually happen somewhat like this in a huge hall in the Heinz Convention Center in Boston, and there are people from your team who will present the project. There'll be judges in the front row and other teams and other members who are also part of iGEM who look at your presentation. Over here, the presentation is going to be a little more like a video conference, but yeah. And then you've got the safety and security award. So if your team has really done things to the book, has done things considering special safety measures, special security measures, and stuff like that, so you can always win the best security and safety award as well. Again, Salman will be able to give you a very good idea on this because he's working with Tessa Alexanian, who is our safety and security program officer. Again, best software tool is self-explanatory. You've got the best supporting entrepreneurship. Like I said, iGEM expects you to not build projects that are just good in the science aspect of it, but they need to be something that can be implemented in the world as soon as possible, in which case you need to figure out the finances, you need to do economic viability analysis, you need to understand how sellable is the product, you need to understand uh, what would be, say, the manufacturing cost and what cost would you sell it at. And again, these are not all necessary, but if your team chooses to work on these aspects, is when you can win these awards, right? And recently, we've also wanting to promote the sustainable development goals put up by the United Nations. So if you guys have done in your project, if you guys have fulfilled various SDGs, and maybe you highlight how your project is affecting the various SDGs and how good it is for all of those things, you can win the best sustainable development impact. And again, I think probably one of the most important deadlines in the calendar, like I was talking about, is what we call as the wiki freeze. So it's just before your judging and basically the final assessment of your project starts. The final sort of deadline is the wiki freeze. A wiki is basically a comprehensive website regarding your project, right? It will explain every single thing about your project, about what you guys did, when you guys did it, and why you guys did it, and this and that. And you can look up again examples of wikis, best wikis that people have won over the years. And there are community awarded prizes such as iGEM's prize and best project promotion video prize. And again, project promotion video is also one of the competition deliverables. So again, let's come back to the point of timelines. So really around this June, July, and August time is when you're really working on the project, trying to figure out which of these medal criteria and which of these awards you want to target, and you accordingly are working and planning out your whole project and doing the whole project this way. And September and October is when you're really wrapping up all of these experiments. You're trying to work out how you want to present this project. So you would make your poster, you would make your wiki, you would practice pre-runs of your presentation and this and that. And then it happens, the final thing, the giant jamboree, which is basically a celebration of all the hard work that you did all the way from February to, say, October, right? So the hard work from, say, fundraising to brainstorming project ideas to actually determining the goals and tasks to getting the project done, discussing human practices, doing collaborations, running experiments, processing, plotting results, redoing experiments, then working on ways of presenting it. And like I said, this is why I kept on telling that um, iGEM has a place for everybody, no matter if they're web developers or video editors um, or computer scientists, because at some part of the iGEM cycle, you will be required, right? Maybe some things are happening in the lab where the biotech people are required, but then some things are happening outside that. So there is computational modeling or mathematical modeling which will be happening on, say, MATLAB, or or PyMol, things that are more bioinformatics and stuff. So that's sort of like the iGEM cycle. The registration is fairly simple. You do it around the February March time. You all you need is a PI and a team name, and after that you can add more people around by the end of August. I think is when you can check over here. Uh, roster freeze. I'll just check when the roster freeze is here. Team rosters are open. So I think they haven't put in exactly when the roster freezes, but I think it happens around in August. Oh yeah, here it is, September. 24th September is final team rosters due. So this year, people don't have to reveal exactly who all are there in their team until 24th of September. They can still keep adding more and more members or removing certain members if they need. So that's the iGEM cycle. You have to register your team, start working on your project, be as collaborative and as involved in the process as possible. Finalize your team, finalize your projects, finalize your experiments, and then get ready with all the presentations that you guys can will be do will do, and then go to the Jamboree. Hopefully, when you guys participate next year, it's going to be a physical one, and then you guys can, that's how the iGEM cycle ends. But then, again, it does not really end here. If you wish, you can also join what we call is after iGEM. So there's a lot of opportunities that exist after the competition. So you can participate as a judge, or you can participate like me as an ambassador, or as a part of a committee like Salman is, like part of the human practices committee and things of that sort. I think that was a very comprehensive, lengthy answer.
Actually, very informative. I had some of the questions, and you have kind of covered all of them in your, this single section, and that's like really great. You saved some of my time. But again, here you see, like we were talking about the registration process, the registration fees, and now this is an issue where actually from my perspective, I have been there for like for this Bio Summit. I've been there for 2 or 3 years. So, and this is a thing people are talking about this iGEM fee, registration fees, and other expenses relating to that. So if I ask you that as a first timer, what are the funding opportunities, or is there? I understand like we have to manage a sponsor, and then we have to go for other kind of funding sources. It can be private or public, or maybe commercial. But is there any opportunity or support from iGEM Foundation for the first timers?
So this is a fascinating question. So we are working on some initiatives because we are aware that this fee is something that is preventing a lot of the teams from being able to, showcase their projects or their talents on the global stage. So we're currently working on certain initiatives wherein we plan to have local leagues, and maybe you can read up about something called is iGEM Latam Design League. So in Latin America, one of the bigger issues, so it's not as much a problem of money as much it is a problem of accessing labs. So for Latin America, what we have decided to do is we have another competition which is called the Design League, wherein they're not required to really go into the lab to do anything. The only thing that they're doing is actually designing a biological project completely based on the design aspect of it, and not actually testing it or building it, right? So they don't need a lab for that. So we are thinking of trying to get something like that uh, around this region of India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, China, and around this Asian region, but no promises there just yet because this is something that's in the works. But then uh, so that is something that we are trying to do to ease in more first time teams, right? Because they might be uncomfortable participating in a whole world championship kind of competition, whereas a local league will be a little more to their means. And again, like we said, we iGEM is all about local people solving local problems, so it would be more beneficial for local people to initially give you these kind of goals and targets to meet, because that would make more sense in the local perspectives, right? So this is something that we're coming up with. But what already exists is that you can there are a couple of things. So if you register multiple teams from the same institute, you would get a discount of $1,000. So say if you're registering two teams, so that would be uh, $11,000, right? But you would get it done at $10,000 instead if you guys participate together. Sorry, register together. Then there is another idea of this two-phase project. So a lot of the first-time teams, they're because they're so new to this idea of iGEM, they cannot complete a whole project within the very stressful and packed iGEM cycle. What they decide to do is they will do the design phase in 1 year, and they'll do the testing, building and testing phase in another year. So if you opt for something called as a two-phase project, you again are eligible for $1,000 discount. Then adding on to that, there are also grant opportunities. So this year we had the impact grant from the Frederick Gardner Russell Foundation. So they gave $2,500 to 90 iGEM teams. Again, but this is not something that was exclusive to just first-time teams. Anybody could apply to that, and then and see whether or not they win it, because it is, again, that itself is also competitive. Then we also had the safety and security grant, but then again, this was in perspective such that your team does something that is phenomenal in the field of safety and security. And I can give you an example of team IIT Madras from I think 2009, wherein they developed this method which you could use as selectable markers instead of the antibiotic resistance markers, which is a huge step in the direction of preventing antimicrobial resistance. So it's like a huge uh, safety project. So if you guys are working on certain projects like this, so iGEM has certain uh, can help you get certain monetary funds here and there. I mean, can you can apply for the grants there, and you can hope to win that. Then iGEM also has a lot of sponsors. iGEM has sponsors like such as NEB, GenScript, Benchling, MATLAB, MathWorks. So who gave you the software called MATLAB and stuff. So which means that once you register for the iGEM competition, you get access to a lot of these things. You get DNA distribution kits, you get 20 KB of free DNA synthesis from Twist Biosciences and integrated DNA technology. Then you're getting some reagents for free from NEV and a very discounted price for the rest of them. Same for equipment from, say, Thermo Fisher Scientific and stuff like that. So again, this is really serving as an incentive for you to put in amount of investment, which will give you much greater returns, because you can because the value of the products that you're getting as sponsorship, free sponsorship, as soon as you register as an iGEM team, is something that is valued more than the amount of registration fee that you'll be paying. But if you ask me if there is anything that exists as direct funding help that exists from iGEM, I cannot. I mean, so far there is nothing that exists of this sort. But then we can definitely look after it, and hopefully maybe sometime in the future we can have something like this. But these are the initiatives that are coming up. Some initiatives that will have local competition, which will of course have a lower currency, because this will be completely independent. It will not be related to the larger iGEM competition. So it'll be more friendly to newer teams. Then we also have the other grants that come in partnership with iGEM. So these are exclusive grants to iGEM teams, right? So these are not open to other people. So again, you have higher chances of winning these. I mean, think about it. The odds are spectacular. You have 200 something teams participating in iGEM, and 90 of those teams will get the impact grant worth $2,500. So you have like 40+% chance of getting the grant. Whereas if you apply to any other external grant, the chances drop to about 10 to 12%. And you have to be like really good at that. So these are some of the things that iGEM has. so far, and hopefully this will also keep on increasing. But then again, iGEM understands that sometimes, because especially because during this COVID pandemic, what happens, a lot of teams had the money but they were unable to pay it, or they would get the money after some amount of time, uh, and they wouldn't be able to make the deadline, say for instance, and they would then have to pay the late registration fee. So you can always just write a mail to headquarters explaining the situation. This is usually done by the principal investigator, that this is the case, there is lockdowns going on over here, the banks are not functioning, so can we get a waiver of the late registration fee and stuff like that. And these kinds of incentives are possible, and these are of course more liberal for newer teams as compared to old teams, because again, because you guys are new to this entire process.
Great. So yeah, this is the thing. Like we have to look for and we have to keep working on. So because ultimately, when we're trying to do something without the funding, things are a bit tricky. Not bit. I mean, like it's a very good chance of going things sideways. So now that we talked about many projects, the type of projects and everything. So what do you think we should be focusing on? Some outcome-based scenario, like for example in our country or like countries like India, Bangladesh, the South Asian countries, we have so many local problems. So do you think it would be a great idea to focus on some of the local problems that maybe not a flashy one, but maybe it can solve, you know, a- one thing, our countries like India, Bangladesh, we are like highly populated and the population density is like really high. So if we can like solve or target a very local problem, actually there is a chance to help more people, in a given area. So do you think an iGEM project can be based on that or target that kind of projects?
Absolutely. So the first thought that came to my head was like, definitely, please do it, right? Because again, the iGEM's idea is local people solving local problems, because local people have the best understanding of those problems, right? And we were working on Minamata disease, but we were sitting here in India and we never actually experienced what Minamata disease felt like, right? And we could not talk to the patients of Minamata disease. We couldn't talk to the company that, say, caused the mercury poisoning. We couldn't talk to the government officials who took care of that poisoning. We couldn't talk to the people who are, say, descendants of people who were affected or people who protested and stuff like that, which is something I think is very important in the context of how you build science, really. Because as scientists, because again, we were talking about funds before, a lot of our science is funded by taxpayers or by corporates and stuff, and we don't really tell them exactly how we are using their funds or what are we solving. But couple of things here. So, iGEM does not have any restrictions whatsoever on what kinds of projects that you can choose, unless, say, for instance, like we had restrictions last year and this year for teams working on COVID, because it is something that is not solved so far, and we can risk people's lives in those situations. So, of course, we will probably prevent you from doing projects that are too dangerous for a high school student or college student or even just a PhD student to handle, because you need biosafety level 3, biosafety level 4 kind of labs. So we would probably tell you to abstain from projects like that. But as long as you're working on projects that can be worked on in BSL 1 or BSL 2 labs, you're completely free to do any sort of project whatsoever. And it helps to have a local problem, because you have a greater understanding of that problem. You have more stakeholders that you can engage with. This clears your human practices, integrated human practices, medal criteria, etc., etc. And then again, you can also this is also very lucrative to sponsors, because a sponsor in India will not probably sponsor you for trying to solve Minamata disease from Japan, right? So a sponsor in Bangladesh will be more than happy to sponsor you for something that's a local problem in Bangladesh. Because if you tell them, and it also looks so, most iGEM teams also participate in a lot of press. Like they would have press releases where they would say like, iGEM team from Bangladesh tries to solve this problem, right? So when you put these things in newspapers, in media, So then people of Bangladesh, the community around you, will be able to appreciate what you guys are doing better than say if you were doing something that is not related to your place, right? So again, but there is no restrictions. You can really do, you can solve any problem that you see fit. But absolutely, local problems are the, I would suggest it's like the best way to go.
So yeah, that's great. I mean, we have different kind of restriction depending on the country economy. So we have to come up with some criteria or like strategy, more like a strategy, so that you can secure some of the funding. So it can be a good approach for that. So thank you so much for clarifying that thing. And also, we'll come back to you with questions from the audience like very soon. So now I'm going to hand it over to Samiha for other questions for our Committee of Biotechnology. So Shamudev, please
Poma-
stay tuned with us for 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay, Poman sir,
Yeah,
I have
sure.
a question for you. So that is like why we want to bring it to Bangladesh and what is our plan for iGEM Bangladesh?
Okay, okay, that's well, that's a question. I mean, the answer can change with time, but I'm sure like the first thing, well, we have been working to develop this community and also working with the science enthusiasts. And since we're from biotechnology or like biology or life science, so we have a focus on this. And if you can remember, last couple of years, we were participating from our country, like the Tech Academy, and I can name some of the other organizations and institutions. They are doing like really great. Tech Academy actually won the first prize. They got the champion in first global, and uh, and and that was like robotics. And how about this? Like if we can take some prize in biology as well. So and also we got some gold and like bronze medal and like a silver medal in last this mathematics Olympiad. So maybe this can be a good avenue to explore, and you can see when something happens like that, uh, students or the people who are actually enthusiasts or they have interest, like young minds, I should say, they actually get more encouraged. They like to get involved in this kind of activities. So if we um, you know bring iGEM and introduce our people to this iGEM, and I'm sure like this is the biggest competition of synthetic biology. Shomudeep must be agree there. So and what I think is like when I visited Boston and Cambridge, and people are like they're like really into this thing, especially the high schoolers and especially the college students. They're like really talking about this thing. The PI are talking about this thing. So this is a huge thing over there, and different countries all over the world, even India. And when I went to Soumya Bihar, 50% students, the topic of their discussion was iGEM. So I think this we can be part of that discussion as well, and we can see what our students have, what our young minds have. So and not only about this participation, but also the thing we're talking about, the human practices, and how we can bring them in an early stage. They can connect with them. They can understand what kind of necessity we have in our population, how we can contribute to the society by our learning. Like we're life science people, and we are bringing together other engineering students. Maybe some of them are like designers, some of them are biologists, some of them are mathematicians, statistician, or business. So all together, putting all of these minds together and skills together, maybe we can contribute to the society. And that's one of the my motivation to bring iGEM here, because iGEM is kind of like covering all of those things, right? Nurturing them, make this way, and some the thing like bringing a very good startups out of this kind of projects. And I think that's also a contribution to the economy as well. Think about that. You are being kind of like exporter of some sort of technologies, or you're selling your service to somewhere. So it's a very good contribution to your economy as well. And thirdly, our life science community and our engineering community and our science community all together, and also our business community, we have so many problems in this area of in this region, because we are the population, because of our economy. So health sector mostly there, and due to the COVID, so health sector is getting affected by it day by day. The more you are having, population density or the other things are coming, and the health sector needs to be, um, developed with time. So I think if you, instead of like, bringing so much resources, or instead of like creating the need of resources, you are coming up with technologies that's like point of care technologies, like for example diagnostics, or even like cancer. In our country, the village people, they don't even know the what is cancer, or they don't go to the doctors before the terminal state, and they die after that because they're already in third or fourth stage. So how about, just think about this dream, like one iGEM team of our country, they came up with some point of care diagnostics for cancer, or like early stage active, something like that. So they, maybe they will be able to detect in the first stage or second stage. Maybe you can start this, uh, you know this this treatment, or the course of treatment earlier stage. So think about this kind of things. I'm just giving example. So that's why actually, frankly speaking, we started this iGEM Bangladesh a couple of years back. But in back in 2017, I actually did this sort of seminar in when I was undergrad student, or yeah, or maybe I just passed, or I was actually an undergrad teaching assistant. So in my university, that was a physical seminar, and also we have Biobangla with us, and and after that, when I got to know about these processes, and also this funding and opportunity, and you need certain amount of funding, and you need certain amount of connections. So somehow I got derailed, but now with community of biotechnology with us, and so people like Soumodeep iGEM Foundation supporting from them. I mean, now I'm actually getting this, hope that we together will be able to bring it in light, and actually form our iGEM team. And actually, I believe like you have some other question about the iGEM team, and I would like to address on that as well. Um, we are in the process to create the iGEM team. Thanks to Shomudeep here, because actually I had another meeting with him a few weeks back, and for that I actually got this, like the strength of I'm like brave enough to announce that we are in the process to recruit some team, and we actually recruit some of the teams from different disciplines, and they're basically freshers and college students, and we'll be announcing them like really soon. And thanks to community of biotechnology, and like some of the other Bangladesh community, like network of young biotechnologists Bangladesh, Bio Bangla, Chittagong University High Study Society, Biosol Center, and so on. And we have Biotech, we have WizKit, like, and surprisingly, another the CEO of WizKit, Bushra, she's also a part of human practice community member. So right now we are not alone. That back in that time, due to this, single journey, that was like very big for us. But right now, so many people are like supporting us, and I'm really hopeful. And whoever like watching these things, and especially the potential iGEMers from Bangladesh, please, and we actually need your help, your enthusiasm, so that you can be a part of this process, and try to figure out something, how we can actually take care of our own problems, like, take care of the mass people with our projects, with our science. And not only that, if you are part of this, and if you somehow show this your affiliation to in your job or your higher study, it will be always benefited if you're a part of this kind of organizational work. And also it will also increase your skills, because you have to go through some real life problems. It's not just your class. I used to take classes. I am a lecturer as well, so and also I was a graduate assistant, so I had to take class in lab. So it's not like that. It's not your university lab. Now you're dealing with the real world. So if you're, getting involved with real world from your early stage, and like you are a high schooler, you may be like individual, like independent person. Just think about it, what you can do when you're like, in the college or higher, next stage of your life. So I believe this conversation is like never ending. I believe Somudev can go on and go on. I can go on. So I'm giving this floor to Somudev as well right now, with this question that Um, as a first timer, what are the other important facts we should keep in our mind? So Shomadep, can you like take it over from me?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So I think it's beautiful that Samiha asked about why Bangladesh should participate in iGEM, and it's I'm so hard it's so heartening to see your response to why iGEM is something that Bangladesh should definitely be participating in. I think one of the things that I want to talk about is the funding itself, because that is something that is tricky for first time participants. The reason this exists and is part of the reason why Asian teams have become such successful startups, because one of the first problems that you face even as a startup is trying to secure funding, right? Which means you need to learn how to advocate your work, how to give elevator pitches, how to give uh, how to convince people that you are actually solving some sort of problem, or you're taking steps towards solving a problem, and actually make them pay for it, right? So we expect you from iGEM to advocate your work, and as a result, really get your community involved in what really happens at iGEM. It's beautiful to see that Saman talked about the different ways that you guys can influence your community. And this is one of the first things that is required, that is, in order to secure funding, you guys will really need to inspire confidence in your community, in you people, right? You guys need to talk to them about what you guys know. You guys need to talk to them about what you guys plan to do, and why you plan to do it, what is your motivation regarding it, and how will this benefit you guys, right? So I'm here to help you guys in many ways. I can tell you some benefits of iGEM, I can tell you some benefits that I've had, but ultimately what happens at the level of your community, or what happens with your team, is something that is entirely dependent on you guys, right? So that is something that I would tell most first years to sort of watch out for, because they are very unaware going into iGEM about what iGEM really is. But that is something that I think you guys are doing really well at, because you guys already have people from the iGEM Human Practices Committee, and you guys arranged this webinar with like an iGEM ambassador, because that's sort of like our task, right? iGEM has ambassadors to help you guys out with exactly these kind of things, so that we can tell you what are the challenges that you need to look out for, what are the aspects of iGEM that you need to really pay attention to. So this is like one of the first things that I would tell you, that be on a lookout for uh, sponsors, funding, trying to get confidence in the community towards you people, and be informed about the competition that you are participating in, which I think you guys are already doing well at. Then the second thing I would tell you guys to be good at is I told this to my juniors, like so I participated from Manipal Institute of Technology last year. So the juniors of my juniors who are participating this year, I told them that the calendar page that I talked about, 2021.igem.org/calendar, make sure that you've bookmarked it on your browser, or you've taken a printout of the whole thing and put it on your put it around your house, because deadlines to experienced teams, or to teams that have mentors and advisors and stuff who has been through the iGEM process, they will have a rough estimate of when which deadline comes, and how many deadlines actually are there. Again, this is all about being informed about the competition itself, but then again in a more specialized fashion, because if we miss the deadlines in your competition, it's game is practically over, right? So the second thing that first timers struggle with is deadlines, because they don't know what deadlines are there, what they're expected to do in those deadlines, and uh, when are these deadlines. So I tell them, just make sure that you reach out to the calendar, bookmark it, keep it around you all the time, so that you always know what are the next goals and tasks that you guys have to finish in order to be able to make that deadline. The third thing, again, it's all about information, but people often do not get the head or tail of what an award means, or what does a specific medal criteria really mean. And in this case, I would suggest that always reach out to one of the ambassadors, or the judging team, or there are, of course, when you go up to these pages where you will be reading about these things in the first time, you will find all the different resources. So you will find a judging handbook. So you will find the same handbook that is given to the judges so that they know how to judge you guys is accessible to you guys as well, which means you guys know exactly what parameters they will judge you on the basis of, and how many points will those parameters count for, this and that, right? So but these are all resources are available, but most people don't know that these are available, and mostly first timers don't know that these are available because an experienced IGMer would know. So these are some of the things that I would tell you to watch out for. Every time you are in sort of like a situation where you feel like you don't know something, or you don't have enough help, or if you don't have enough resource, make sure to reach out to any one of us ambassadors, and we'll be there to, because we've gone through the Asian journey once or twice or thrice. The global ambassador coordinator has been through the IGM experience 9 times. Yeah, as being a judge, being an ambassador, being a team member, being an advisor. So a lot of people, we usually stick around with iGEM for a very long journey. So it's best, and I would say the best thing to do for a first time team is to make sure that they're in constant touch with their ambassadors. And we also have the education committee of after iGEM also has this mentorship program, and I highly recommend all first time teams to sign up for this because you guys get a preference. So all first time teams are assigned an experienced iGEMer as a mentor, right? So this experienced iGEMer as a mentor may not be your lab mentor, may not be a mentor in any of the other aspects apart from the fact that he will teach you how iGEM works. So maybe you guys know everything else better. You guys know how to do your presentations well. You guys know how to do your project well. But as far as iGEM is concerned, you need experience over there. And that's what this mentorship program will help you guys get into. It's very easy to sign up. You search for the iGEM mentorship program, and you will get like a survey monkey link. You just have to fill in the team details, like the fact that you guys are a first time team, then what all aspects do you think you need help in, and based on your responses, the education committee will match you with a mentor who can help you in those problem areas, and of course will impart the experience and knowledge of the iGEM competition itself to you. And so these are the simple things. Instill confidence in your community so that they fund you and they support you throughout. Second is make sure that you stick to the deadlines and stuff like that. Make sure that you understand what the competition is all about by going. Make sure that you know all the resources that are available to you. And fourth is be in touch with an ambassador and also apply for the mentorship program. And if you gather these four things, then you have a better chance at winning certain medals and awards than even some experienced teams.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was like so much information, and actually, we have to, as a first timer, things are like jotted down. But eventually, I believe we will be, make up lists, and we'll be making like a roadmap, and also maybe there will be a time that we'll be like knocking you or the other ambassadors. So yeah, you'll get used to that. And I would like to hand over this conversation to Samiha because I believe this is a time we taking questions from the audiences. So we'll be
Yes.
back again. So thank you so much again.
No problem.
So I guess we are having some questions from the audience. So can we please have the question?
Okay, so Sneha asks, "How was your journey with iGEM?" So this is very interesting, and again, I could go hours together on this because it's a very, so I can tell you. So most iGEMers will have a very bittersweet relationship with iGEM. So so going through the iGEM process itself is like hell on earth. Okay, because there is so many deadlines. There's so many things that are going on in the whole project. It's a whole 4 year, 5 year PhD thesis work, right? And you're doing it in a couple of months, right? And you guys don't even have that level of skill or knowledge that the people who do PhD projects are at, right? So it's a lot of stress because you would have to reach out to your mentors for everything, or some other set of mentors, or you ask your peers, or you have to, you're doing things, but simultaneously you're trying to learn things. Because I remember, so we did not have a wiki and web development team. So I was like a hardcore. I was a research head of my team, so I was supposed to be the person who was processing and plotting results and reporting it such that it will be written on the wiki. Um, but it turns out that we did not have any wiki and web development team, so I had to learn web dev. So I had to learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and actually build the website for our team. Then we also had, in the very initial stages, we had a problem with, we did not have a graphics and media team. So I had to learn photo editing, video editing, illustration, and I cannot tell you, but like how awesome this is, because at this point I have all of these different skills that I would have never had if it wasn't for iGEM, right? And these are skills beyond the research skills that I learned at iGEM, reporting skills, the experimental skills. So again, the journey with iGEM was bittersweet in the sense that, it put me through hell, because I had to go through so many different learning curves and learn so many different things and do so many things in that very short amount of time. And it's extremely stressful. I've lost a lot of sleep. Uh, there's like a ongoing every year there's like an ongoing uh, laughing factor about the wiki freeze, because just before the wiki freeze all teams have sleepless nights wherein they're putting all the information about all that they did in the project onto their wiki and stuff. So this would be the tougher parts of the journey with iGEM. But at the end of it all, now that I look back at it, okay, that was done with, right? It was not something I couldn't do. And now I know illustration, I know photo editing, I know video editing, I know web dev, and I know research. And I've had a paper, and and I'm still involved with iGEM, right? So it's then it just becomes like, okay, iGEM has given me so many things in such a short amount of time. So I would that's how I would tell my journey with iGEM is like, it's like a very intense crash course in everything, and which might feel like hell when you're going through it, but after it, it's just like a very euphoric experience. Oh yeah, no problem, Ashkur. It's all great. I want to know about your first iGEM project and the entire journey in short. Okay, great. So my first iGEM project was about, it was a therapeutic intervention. It was a probiotic therapeutic intervention to methyl mercury poisoning. Methyl mercury poisoning is what happened in the Minamata disease that you guys can read upon. The idea is that there exists mercury in different forms, right? You've got mercury in organic mercury form, you've got mercury in mercury salts form, and you've got mercury in organic mercury form. And the most lethal of this is the organic mercury form. So mercury salts are, if they're usually not soluble in water, then you won't be able to, then you usually are not exposed to it. If they are soluble in water, which means then you will intake it, but then you'll also be able to wash it off. So salts are fine. Inorganic mercury is dangerous if you inhale it, but it's very less likely that you're going to be going around sniffing inorganic mercury, right? So the most toxic form of mercury is really the organic forms of mercury. So you've got methyl mercury, dimethyl mercury, and stuff like that. Um, and there are a lot of stories about this. So what happens is, when mercury is discharged into rivers and oceans and seabeds, uh, it settles down all the way to the planktons, and over there we've got some anaerobic bacteria which convert this mercury to methyl mercury. And when it becomes methyl mercury, it becomes bioavailable to the planktons. The planktons are eaten by, yes, these are phytoplanktons. So they are eaten by zooplanktons, and a lot of zooplanktons are eaten by fishes, and a lot of fishes are eaten by bigger fishes, and a lot of bigger fishes are eaten by even bigger fishes. And those bigger fishes, we fish them out and we cut them and we eat them, right? Which means we get exposed to a lot of methyl mercury, and then this methyl mercury can cause different sets of problems. It can cause ataxia. It can cause it's basically it's neurodegenerative. So the reason it is more lethal is because this becomes fat soluble, which means that it will go inside your body and it will stay there because it's very difficult to take out fat soluble things. Most things that are fat soluble are usually taken out using methods of chelation. So you use ethylene diamine tetraacetate. And if you do not get the dosage right, then you will end up messing with a lot of other things, right? So there exists no way for you to figure out if it's methyl mercury poisoning, and if it is, then does not exist a way to really solve that. So the way that this really affects your body is that this methyl group on the mercury, this enables it to bind with cysteine, which is an amino acid, and then the cysteine seems like it's methionine, right? The body thinks it's methionine because they're very structurally similar. You can see they both have like a sulfur group, but in methionine you have a methyl group at the end, and cysteine you don't. So because of this methyl group and the methyl mercury, it just attaches to cysteine, and the body thinks, oh, it's methionine, and it just takes it in very easily. It absorbs it very readily, so much so that this can also cross the blood-brain barrier, which is a very difficult barrier to cross in most of biology you would hear. So that is why it causes all these kinds of neurological problems, this and that and all of that. So our idea was that if this methyl part in the methyl mercury is what is dangerous, and it is causing this problem in your gut, if we were able to solve this somehow, if we were able to do this, that we just stopped it from getting absorbed into your body, then that would just solve the problem, right? Because if we won't have to scour all the oceans and travel to all the fish's body and flush out all the methyl mercury from them, that would be a very expansive and big process. But our idea was more simpler. It was that you would have basically a filter in your gut which will stop you from getting methyl mercury poisoning. How would we achieve that? We decided to engineer a probiotic bacterium, which means bacteria that stays in your gut. So we'll just give you a probiotic pill, which you will have, and it'll just go and stay in your gut. It'll keep swimming around, and we engineered it such that it will be able to sense mercury, and once it senses methyl mercury, it will sequester all the methyl mercury inside. It will release a two enzyme system, alkyl mercury lyase and organic mercury reductase, mercury 2 reductase. So what it'll do is it'll break the bond between methyl and the methyl group and the mercury, and then the mercuric ions, it will reduce it to organic mercury. So there is no way for it to reattach and cause problems again for you. So that was sort of like our project. So it would solve the problem of methyl mercury poisoning. And because the main concept behind our project was breaking this bond, we actually called our project Breaking Bond. And you can check this out the on our wiki. We actually made this Breaking Bond thing like a Breaking Bad theme. So it's very exciting. You can always look out how we have implemented that. We also had a side project along with it, wherein uh, we suspected that inorganic mercury in your gut, which is not as problematic because it is very far away from your lungs. It is just flushed out with feces. So, but we thought excess amounts of inorganic mercury in your gut can cause inflammation. So we also had another mechanism in the same probiotic which would be able to prevent unnecessary inflammation only in the cases of mercury poisoning. So it was like a very well designed system. So that was like our iGEM project. And the whole journey was where it was interesting because we were the first team from our place. So we spent a lot of time gathering funds and doing this and that and thing. We really only started participating in the competition around June, wherein we did a couple of collaborations and stuff. So that was until July. So our project sort of really started around August, and and we were all back at our homes doing video calls, right? So we had no zero physical interactions and all of that. So it was pretty hard on us because it's difficult to work with people when you're not with them, especially until last year because we were not used to that kind of interaction. So that was a little stressful, but I think all in all, at the end, we did end up winning a gold medal because we worked on several processes. So this was once just that was just a probiotic, but we also developed methods to test it, such as that hardware that I told you about before. We also developed a whole system as to how you can produce it in bulk. And we also did a survey from the Indian census data to figure out which regions in India would require it more than the others. Like West Bengal would need a lot of it because we love having fish, right? So these are some this is how like the iGEM journey and iGEM project was like for me last year.
Okay, so I guess we have similar kind of questions from the audience, and our speaker has already elaborately explained them all. So I'd really like to thank you for your elaborate discussion. It was really helpful for us. And now I'd like to hand over the floor to Salman Promon, sir.
Thank you so much, Samiha. It was really very supportive of you to conduct this whole session. And I would like to thank Committee of Biotechnology for arranging the whole thing, and hopefully the journey will be longer. And I have a message from iGEM Bangladesh. So this is a platform, a very new one, and we are in the working process. So all kind of supports we can have, those all are welcome. And now, finally, I would like to thank you, Shamudeep, for giving his precious time. I know he's like very, under pressure, working all the time. So thank you so much for making this time for us. And we'll be like knocking you more maybe. And from my case, this is the concluding discussion because we are almost at the end. We have 1 or 2 minutes to end the thing. And Chomudip, if you have anything to say to our audience, I would like to give this floor to you. And thank you so much again, all of you, all the participants, audience, whoever is watching this live. And I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart. So, Chomudip, please.
Yeah, definitely. I had the same words as Salman. You guys have been a wonderful audience. It's great to see that you guys have such interesting questions. It's good to see that you guys are really looking forward to participate in a competition of this scale. iGEM has done a lot of great things. We've got 150 plus startups. There are people who get involved in policy, public policy and stuff, and there are delegates that go from iGEM to World Health Organization to United Nations, and they talk and discuss about the ethics of GMOs, the ethics of science. There are people who are associated with iGEM who are working on open insulin project. They're working on um, open source robots and stuff like that. It's pretty fascinating to see the scope that iGEM has. And it's even more fascinating to see the kind of enthusiasm that you guys have towards this community, to see that you guys want to be a part of this community by contributing to it, by becoming fruitful members of it. So I'll be looking forward to your participation next year, and of course, I'll always be available for you guys whenever you guys need me. I'll be more than happy to help you guys, ease you guys through to the competition. And again, hats off to you guys for such enthusiasm. And you guys have been a brilliant audience. And you guys have been uh, Salman and Samiha. You guys have been brilliant hosts. Thank you so much for having me here. And I hope to see more from you guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
everyone.
much.
So maybe we
Thank
can end
you.
it here. So, bye, everyone. Thank
Bye.
you,
Thank you
Shamudeep.
so
See
much.
you
Take
again.
care,
Bye.
guys.
Thank you so much.
Are you still live?